So another round of racial literacy, fluency, and agility. So I think a really important thing when we're talking about um, talking to anyone about race, racism, white body supremacy, is really identifying what stage of racial identity development formation they're in. If we're only ever talking to people from our own perspective, from wherever we are in our racial identity development, we might have some missteps. So I invite you to think about what is your where are you at and where's the other person at? What's your objective in this conversation? Is the objective your self-respect? This is what DBT, interpersonal effectiveness skills, teach us. Is your objective that you have an ask of them? There's an objective you want to meet. Is the relationship the most important thing? Depending on which of these three objectives is the most important thing for you, will determine where you go. But we can't even do that without identifying where people are on this journey. So most people, almost all people, are racialized in some sort of way, whether they're aware of it or not. And I think of most racial identity scales talk about 4 different stages. Some of those talk about 5. I'm going to stick with 4 for simplicity. So what I invite you to think about is, so the first stage is like unawareness, right? I'm not a racial being. I don't understand how race factors into this. It's much more colorblindness. And so any interaction around race will likely feel violent, perhaps, or like, you don't get me, or like, what does this have to do with anything? And then I think about, the second stage is often an encounter stage, right? And in that encounter stage is when that person discovers they're a racial being, right? And I'm not just talking about people of the global majority. I'm not just talking about Black, Brown, Indigenous, Asian, multiracial individuals. I'm talking about all individuals, including white individuals, right? And in that encounter, there's guilt, there's shame, there's anger, there's sadness, it's a mess. And often people haven't built the capacity, the resources to really interrogate and engage that, right? They kind of realize they've been told some stories or they've been protected in some sort of way. And that can happen at any stage in one's life. And then I think of the third stage is like really diving deep into understanding who am I as a racial being, who are my ancestors, my elders, how have we been socialized, when did our family, if we're white, when did our family become white, or if we've been assigned whiteness, like when did that happen historically in our family, personally. And that in this stage we can go to the extreme, right? And there isn't a whole lot of nuance. It's a lot of emotional charge, and there can be a lot of binary polarization that happens there, and maybe a rejecting or distancing of people we were once connected to because it doesn't fit with our current paradigm. But then I also think about how moving to that fourth stage, right, is finding some balance, finding some integration, finding your people who can support you on this journey, recognizing that it is not fluid, it's not linear, it's a whole lot of mess, and that we can go back and forth because sometimes the pain of that awakening is too much, and we revert back to old ways of being and ways that protect us, ways that helped us survive. So I invite you to think about where you are on your journey, where the people you're interacting with are in their journey, and how will you build the capacity and the resources to modify how you engage with them if that's of interest to you. Sometimes we hold marginalized identities, or we are in our anti-racism journey where we just want to be unapologetic about where we are in this moment, and that's okay too. Right? Recognizing, are we trying to build bridges? Are we trying to burn things down? Are we trying to speak our own truth? And what are we willing to center in this moment? So I hope this was helpful. Take good care.